Which tournament, and this was something that was brought up on Twitter by Sanford Kelly, which tournament is it that you feel like is the bigger win for Street Fighter? Is it Capcom Cup or EVO? A lot of people had a lot of different opinions on this. As always in the fighting game community on Twitter, it's really something to really think about, because each tournament is structured differently. A lot of people were saying like, oh man, with Capcom Cup to win that, you could really study people, and you already know who you're gonna play against virtually and stuff like that. So it's really, you can really set yourself up to win easier for that one. But with EVO, there's no telling who you'll run into. It could be some random dude from the middle of nowhere who been laughing Street Fighter with strong thumbs for the past 10 years that just run up on you, and then you get knocked off and you never heard of them. So in you guys' opinion, which one is the bigger win for you guys? Capcom Cup or EVO? Starting with you, Devin.
Okay, so just this comment about the strong thumbs. It's just like some nomad guy that dressed like Ryu with these like buff thumbs. Like, yeah, I'm here to compete, man. He got his knapsack on this. So I'm here to compete. But to the topic at hand, that's actually a good question. EVO and Capcom Cup, and before like all these other events became a thing, like Capcom Cup, the obvious answer would have been EVO, because I think at that time that was before like Capcom Cup and all these other things started happening. That was the biggest event. So with EVO, like Octavian just said, there's a pool of players from everywhere, from the swamplands, from the desert lands, from everywhere. You might fight Batman in EVO, like you never know. And it's like, obviously, if you fought against Batman, you're gonna lose. Like, I don't, So that's the thing about it. You might run into somebody,
100%.
Somebody that you never heard of. And let's be honest, there's a lot of people out here that don't have like quote unquote household names that are actually really good, but for whatever reason, they just might not never had exposure or got to play against people. And then you see these people play like, oh, he beat so and so. This guy beat Gamer Beat, and it's like, oh, that was a fluke. Like, no, that guy was actually pretty godlike, but nobody knows who he is. So now Capcom Cup, again, you can study your opponents. At the same time, the opponents that are in Capcom Cup, they're all like top echelon players. So it's not like it's still, oh, this is easy just because I can study these people. You still got to be in your A game. But if I had to pick, I would probably say EVO, because I think it's more of a, as opposed to Capcom Cup, just looking at the two things, I feel like EVO is a less controlled environment. And there's a lot more variables that, can go, I guess, wrong. And again, like I said, you can play somebody, like you don't know where these people are from. You don't know what characters are going to play, all these different matchups. You got to like come across different play styles. Capcom Cup, you're going to see who you're going to play. You know the characters that they play. They might have some pocket characters, and you might have seen them play their pocket characters. But EVO, you don't know at all. You're going in blindfolded, just like this. And like I said, if you run across Batman, it's over with. You out. You don't win 0-2 against Bruce Wayne, and now you got to go home. So I think personally, my choice would be EVO is probably the bigger tournament to win, just from that random factor and like the bigger pool of people that you got to play against.
I definitely agree with Devin on that one. I think having all those variables definitely makes it at the very least a lot more interesting. I think, especially for like people coming in, like for the spectators and stuff, because of course, you want to see like the big name people go up and like play against each other and, go head to head. But I think there's also a certain excitement in having like somebody who's like never been heard of before come out and give somebody who's got a lot of juice a run for their money. I think like that's really cool, because it's like, oh wow, I didn't even know this guy existed until right now. He's like, yeah, man, like he's like nobody's ever heard of him before. Like I said, he's like a guy from middle of nowhere with strong thumbs. I mean, how do you account for that? There's no way to account for that, because this guy might have a different play style you've never heard of. like never seen before. He plays a character probably that's way out of meta, because there are characters that some people play that like aren't part of the meta, that like, you know, it's like, oh well, people play like this character and that character, and they only like, and God forbid they play a character in meta, out of meta, in like a out of meta kind of way. You know what I'm saying? Like there's so many different ways to play characters. Like there's like, of course there's like established ways for people to play, but then of course, you know, people go against the grain and they find their own like style, their own kind of flow that really like makes each playing a different character, playing the same character with a different player, very unique. And like I was saying, like a Capcom Cup, yeah, you kind of know what to expect from people, because you know you feel like you've seen it before. You know, you've seen it before. You know what to expect from all these players that are in Capcom Cup. But like in EVO, it's a crapshoot, because you have no idea who's going to show up. You have absolutely no idea who's going to show up. Like I could show up and be like, man, I feel like I have a pretty good chance. And then, like I said, you know, Batman shows up, and what are you going to do? You're just kind of like, oh well, I guess I lose, you know. And next thing you know, you're going home just because some guy who nobody ever heard of before showed up that day and was in your bracket. It's all luck of the draw in that case, you know. And there's no way to prepare for that. So it kind of really, in a way, kind of tests your adaptability, because you know, like I said, you're going in blind. You have no idea what kind of person you're going to play. I mean, you might have, like, if you see a name you've seen before, you're like, oh, okay, I know who that is. But if you see like, you know, Jimmy Jim 525, I'm like, who's this jerk? And then he shows up and he's playing like, you know, like Alex or something in Street Fighter 5, and I'm like, Alex, really? Next thing you know, he's doing his super, and your character's like sticking out of the ground diagonally, like, oh my God, what happened? Oh, it doesn't matter, bro. You went 0-2. Go home. Go home. It's like, oh, okay. I'll get you next time, Jimmy Jim 525, whatever your name was. You didn't even tell you what though. If he does that move on you with Alex, and you have your body sticking out of the ground like that, chances are you're not gonna forget that guy's name. You're gonna be studying up on him, and then God forbid he's just one of those people who comes and plays and he just disappears into the mist until the next EVO. But anyway, yeah, like yeah, I would say definitely give that one to EVO for sure.
Okay, I think let me see, EVO or Capcom Cup. I want to say, well, I will say, I feel like they kind of the same. Like in terms of like if you just woke up and then they said you got to choose which reality you gonna wake up into? You being a Capcom Cup winner or an EVO winner? You know, I feel like, you know, they kind of go hand in hand for different reasons, I guess. Because like Capcom Cup is like, think about, it's a year-long build-up to that event. So everybody that got in there is not like a case of, you know, they just got slotted in. It's from a long just year grinding out all these premieres, these ranking events, EVO as well. So, you know, I feel like if you can say you just came out on top, you know, a Capcom Cup, and if I remember right, everything 3 out of 5 from start to finish, right? If I remember right, everything 3 out of 5 from start to finish, and that's the thing that a lot of people, you know, they act like V Trigger just ridiculous. 2 out of 3 really don't cut it. 3 out of 5 is when people feel like, okay, I lost fan score. You know, despite how much they hate V Trigger, they say 3 out of 5. If you lost in 3 out of 5, you just lost compared to 2 out of 3. And then EVO, I feel like EVO is more, you know how y'all know wrestling, right? WWE, all that. I feel like,
of course.
I feel like EVO is like WrestleMania. People go there for the spectacle, you know. Like EVO itself, it's a little iffy to me. When I used to go, I swear I used to never feel like I can play casuals there. But I feel like Combo Breaker is like the best event to me. But compared to EVO and Combo Breaker, people gonna say, they'll love to say they made top 16 there, top 8 there, because it's EVO. More eyes on there. You know, people just, like y'all say, people come out of nowhere. They'll wait the whole year just to come to Evo and to hopefully, make a name for themselves. Just, the whole event could be terrible, but you can just say, and you will feel good saying that, I made top 16 or top 8 or whatever at Evo. And the stage itself as well, just, looking at the stage, it just looks like it's a big spectacle. That's what I feel. It feels more like a spectacle than just a straight up just FGC event. So I feel like both of them kind of go hand in hand, but I want to slightly get an edge for like from a spectacle standpoint, Evo. But I feel like just as a competitor and just want to be the best and just beat everybody that's there, I get a slight edge to Capcom Cup.
Yeah, that's understandable. And also with Capcom Cup too, you'll say that everybody can study the next person, but just as well as you're studying them, they're studying you. So you got to be able to, figure into that. Like, what is it about my game that he might be looking at that he can expose? Do I know myself well to be able to go in here and do exactly what I need to do? So, it's different things with both of them. I feel like for me, like Capcom Cup would probably be the place to where I'd really feel like, man, I did it, because you already know everybody that's here is a hard hitter. And if I was able to come out of here like against the best in the world that would guarantee gonna be there, because in Evo, there's been a lot of times where you're expecting somebody to make top 8 and they've been knocked out in pools, and you're just like, oh my goodness, Gamer B's out of the tournament, like he's not here anymore. And it's like, man, I won't even get the chance to play, the people I was hoping I'd play in top 8. But at Capcom Cup, that everybody you're going up against is somebody who's thirsty for it, who is the best in the world. So I really think Capcom Cup might be that place that might be like a bigger win in my opinion. So